Inside the familiar H-blocks of the Maze prison, a Member of Parliament lies dying. But Bobby Sands is no ordinary MP, and Northern Ireland awaits the repercussions if he dies.
This morning in the Falls Road in Roman Catholic West Belfast, the tension rises another notch. Bobby Sands, IRA man serving a 14-year sentence for arms offences, begins the 61st day of his hunger strike. Almost 9 weeks in which the only thing that has passed his lips is water. And now he can't stomach even that. But Britain's problem does not end with Sands. Behind the corrugated defences of the Maze prison, there are 3 other men in the queue for an agonising martyrdom. The IRA has phased the hunger strike to maximise pressure on the British. Like the others, Hughes receives daily visits from his family. He began his hunger strike 2 weeks after Sands, but tonight his condition is said to be almost as critical. His brother Oliver describes his latest visit.
And I sat in the bed and, you know, I put my hand along his body and he's just nothing, only bones. And whenever he looks at me, he sees 6 of me. He has a lot of headaches. If he drinks water, he automatically vomits it off again. We're sad, but we're proud that we have a brother and a son who is prepared to die for his country.
A Republican family at the centre of the hunger strike with its view of the affair. But that view has gained more and more support, part humanitarian, part political, from Northern Ireland's Roman Catholics. The issue behind the hunger strike is straightforward enough. Whether convicted IRA men are common criminals or should be put in a special category. In short, political status to include the wearing of civilian clothes, free association and no prison work. The H-Block campaign culminated in this West Belfast rally last weekend, planned as the last before Sands' death, with his sister Marcella prominently on the platform. Bernadette Devlin, now Mrs. McAliskey, has been the campaign's most effective leader outside the Maze. And last January, she suffered for it when she was shot 7 times by loyalist gunmen.
We have asked for very little. We have asked for the rights and human dignity of our prisoners. That's all. We are not afraid to have done that. And if we pay for those demands with the life of one prisoner, those demands will be won. 5 demands we want and 5 demands we'll get. But if we pay for them with Bobby Sands' life, then we will organise and we will unite and we will in discipline and unity and with strength. We will say to Mother England, you have forfeited any right you ever claimed to govern any part of this country, and UDA notwithstanding, we'll drive you to the boat, Mother England.
A campaign that starts by stressing the modesty of the demands ends with a rallying cry for British withdrawal. And in the Republican ghettos, there's a sense of urgency and preparation unwitnessed since the present troubles began. Can the low-profile policy of recent years in which the army has given ground to the Royal Ulster Constabulary be maintained? Or will the provisionals gain their objective of outdoing the police and bringing their traditional enemy, the British Army, back on the streets in strength? It's also a political trial for Britain, for what's mystified the world and provided the provisionals with a propaganda picnic was Sands' election 3 weeks ago as MP for Fermanagh and South Tyrone. The election posters are fading in the constituency, but the election has left a community polarised as never before, and this area knows what division means. The Northern Ireland conflict at its most intractable. Churchill once spoke of the dreary steeples of Fermanagh and Tyrone, and despaired of their quarrel. No despair, though, for Provisional Sinn Féin, political wing of the IRA. Their spokesman is Joe Austin.
I think that the Brits have publicly exposed their reluctance to listen to the Irish people. That is a mandate for the IRA. Because if peaceful protest, if a democratic process that Bobby Sands went through and the Brits then tried to remove from him, if all that fails in any society, but particularly in a society like Ireland at the moment, if it fails, then the alternatives are physical force. And I think that the British have given the IRA an increased mandate, have demonstrated clearly that the IRA are right, and that will, in the long term, and perhaps in the short term, but mainly in the long term, draw to the IRA people who want to see a resolution of the Irish question.
Austin Currie, from the moderate Social Democratic and Labour Party, has fought the Fermanagh seat in the past.
I think the best thing that can be said about the election resulting from Fermanagh South Tyrone was it wasn't a vote for anything or for anyone. It was a vote against something, and particularly in view of the history of this constituency. It was against unionism and everything that unionism represented. And next, I suppose, to the First Lord Brookborough, Harry West represented everything that is hated by the nationalist community in this constituency. They voted against West, they voted against unionism, they voted against years of discrimination and social injustice and gerrymandering and everything else. That's what it meant.
Well, it has given the IRA an enormous boost. Their prestige has gone up immensely. And of course, unfortunately, the media have played it up, overplayed it, I may say, because it has engaged the attention of the world press and the media generally now for the last fortnight or 3 weeks. And I'm afraid that has been overdone again.
Although on the face of it, it is an extraordinary enough fact, isn't it? That
it is
this
extraordinary,
man
yes,
should have been elected.
To look at it from that point of view. But you see, the problem is that we have now over 2,000 families that have been bereaved in this province by people such as Sands and the IRA generally. And we feel that the victims of these chaps and the relatives of the victims of these chaps have not got sufficient sympathy and indeed sufficient support. And there's not a sufficient determination by the British government to prevent these people from slaughtering our innocent people in Northern Ireland.
In the divided city of Belfast, the hunger strike crisis has given fresh impetus to the extremes. In the Roman Catholic ghettos, they're worried about what the death of Bobby Sands could bring, and large numbers are turning to the provisional Sinn Féin, political wing of the IRA, for guidance. In his statement today, Mr Atkins, the Northern Ireland Secretary, appealed to people not to listen to them. Don't play the IRA's game, he said. The problem for the British is that at this meeting in Beechmount and at others like it, they seem to be listening all too intently.
A plan has been drawn up which covers a number of points. It could be people who, in the event of a serious situation happening, may have to evacuate some people, may have to cater for some of the elderly, may have to cater for some handicapped. We'll have to cater for food supplies. We'll have to cater for medical facilities. Now, we need volunteers for all of those things. In the St James's area today, it was put to us that the question of vigilantes be considered. Now, this is a matter entirely for the people of the two areas. If you want to organise vigilantes, if you want to put vigilantes on the street, that is something that you're going to have to decide yourselves.
We'll push them back. They won't come in pushing us back. We'll push them right out. Like, right down the edge.
But before we leave the hall, what I want is a list of people who are prepared to work within, say, first aid, people who can drive and who have cars and who would make those cars available, or any other vehicle that they may have.
Roman Catholics, though, are not the only ones who have been mobilising in Northern Ireland. Protestant loyalists have been on the march as well. Last month, Ian Paisley led the last of his Carson Trail rallies on Stormont Castle, designed to halt British talks with the government of the Irish Republic. Now the danger and the opportunities confronting loyalist leaders are more pressing than the distant bogey of a united Ireland. Dr. Paisley this week summoned a press conference.
The Unionist Party are very concerned about what's happening on the security front in Northern Ireland. We are disturbed because we feel that the government has not taken proper steps in this emergency. And we would feel that there will be an escalation of serious violence in the near future. And we would like to have seen the government taking the proper, adequate decisions in regard to manpower and in regard to putting this province into a state of preparedness to meet the war that no doubt is going to be unleashed in savage fury upon us.
Dr. Paisley, as the crisis over Bobby Sands intensifies, what do you feel the likelihood is of clashes between the two communities, particularly between paramilitary groups on both sides?
Well, I can't talk for paramilitary groups, for I don't know what they're doing. All I can say is this, that if the Protestant people are not given their inalienable right of being defended by the forces of the crown, then they will have to take steps to defend themselves. And that's where the clash would come. The Protestant people are not going to go out and clash with their Roman Catholic fellow countrymen. And they have no intention of doing that, because that would be the very thing the IRA would want us to do, to destroy our own country. This is our country. We want to preserve it. But if the British government doesn't do its duty in defending the people, then the people will have to defend themselves. And we will have to give leadership in that direction.
Within hours of that press conference, the biggest of the loyalist paramilitary organisations, the Ulster Defence Association, was staging what it called a trial mobilisation on the sectarian divide in West Belfast. 1,000 or so volunteers were drafted in from other Protestant areas in an exercise designed to test the UDA's capacity for reinforcement at likely flashpoints. The purpose was supposed to be defensive, but I put it to John McMichael, spokesman for the UDA, that there was a very thin line between defensive paramilitary measures and offensive ones.
Certainly. This is where the discipline within our organisation and the command structure will be tested. At the moment, we are carrying out exercises to test that discipline, test that control, and test our own manoeuvrability.
These are armed exercises?
These are not armed exercises. We will not do anything outside the law so long as the security forces can contain any violence within the nationalist areas. If they cannot contain it, and if we are the loyalist people, the law-abiding people of this province are attacked successfully by the Republicans, then we will intervene. And when it comes to that point in time, whether you're inside or outside the law, it won't matter, because we'll be fighting for our very survival.
Any clash between the Republican and Loyalist communities will leave Britain in the middle, attempting to separate the two. That's where British troops came in 12 years ago. Having first introduced special category status and then phased it out, Britain also finds herself in the middle on the hunger strike issue, because any concession to the provisionals would deeply antagonise loyalist politicians and their followers. The British can claim a wide measure of international support for their stance, but since Sands' election, there has also been much harmful criticism. The question remains whether the hunger strike and its supporters will generate enough trouble to shake Britain's will. And where will that leave British troops on the streets?